Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order of the Ruin as the United Kingdom. In the last video, we started to see the wonders of the utter amazement that is the economy under the social credit system. Oh boy. Fucking hell. We gotta find a way around this. So I have an idea. Oh, well, can't disband units. What the shit? Okay, that was most of my idea. We're gonna have to really hope that the I-Not spot is going to cover our ass. There we go. Yep. And we're gonna hope that that will help out our expenditure a little bit. Because if not... Okay, so this is weird. We can't really get above... like... anything positive growth-wise. But if we go below... oh boy. We can go below very much if we get to a point. All we can do is hope that we don't get that negative real growth. But we're about to lose some GDP, so it's gonna happen. Let's go ahead and start off first with... we'll do the English revival. England by nature leads Britain. It has always been and always will be. Thus, it is of paramount importance that English culture and traditions remain unspoiled and sacred. Unfortunately, this is not the case. English culture has been under attack for centuries, and the attacks have gotten far worse in recent years due to corrupt and degrading influence of the United States. Even now that Britain has been freed from them, the vile ideals promoted by the cabal of usurpers that run their government continue to corrupt England's spirit. There's only one solution to this. Fight fire with fire. For every disgusting piece of propaganda pushed by the bankers of America, we must respond with 100 pieces promoting the exorcism of international finance and the exaltation of the English spirit. Tradition, character, virtue, read the poster hanging on the wall of the pub in big blocky letters, followed by a second line declaring, the young English kindred. Above the letters, a man in traditional folk clothing led a similarly dressed young boy by the hand while both held Union Jack flags. A prettily illustrated forest scene surrounded the two figures, framing them in a wreath of leaves, roots, and branches. Derek cocked his head, giving the poster a once-over. He figured it probably had to be a government poster. Who else could it be, now that no one was stupid or suicidal enough to be hanging resistance ones? It didn't look like a government poster, though, and Derek had seen them all. He knew the one with the German bloke and the English bloke shaking hands, the one with the black shirts, the one with the shifty-looking Jew scaring kid. No, this poster was brand new, and it didn't look one bit like the ones he'd seen before. The chap on the poster looked pretty stupid in his opinion, looked like a bit of a git, really, wearing whatever the hell he was wearing. He didn't know what a young English kindred was either, but it probably had something to do with the kid? Derek couldn't really make heads or tails of the poster, and just felt confused the longer he looked at it. Suddenly, a familiar voice from inside pulled his attention away. Oi! What the hell was that? The ball's right bloody there, you shit! What, your legs stopped walking? hollowed Frank from inside the pub, followed by a round of laughter and jeers. Derek laughed too, turning away from the poster and opening the door, being greeted by a sea of familiar faces and voices. Within moments, all thoughts of the poster were discarded. Brilliant. Now, the monthly corporate influence is going down quite a bit, interestingly enough. Now, next, let's do our sound stock. All agree that the English stock has been in a severe decline since the days of yore, but how do we solve this? The answer is quite simple. Education, education, education. There is only one way to remove the vile ideas planted in the heads of the youth by the agents of modernity, and that is by giving them an education suited to rural life, and one that will teach them loyalty to crown, church, and country. After all, many a great kingdom is brought down by an unworthy and decadent heir, and all the work we will do will be for nothing if our inheritors are not ready to take our place. We'll see how the economy ticks over with the next month tick. One pan fire to the next. Oh, thank God, we're actually getting some growth. Oh. It's fuck all, but it's good enough. It's actually staying pretty stagnant here for now, so I can start working on cutting a little bit. If we can do, we're not doing much in the way of research anyway. Okay, that's a little bit too much. We'll have to probably stick to some social spending. The admin doesn't do too much. I think it actually helps us. Yeah, that helps us with more of our taxable population, so we should keep that up, because we need that to keep bringing in taxes. And then we could do civilian austerity. That is a huge chunk of our spending. That fucks with our growth even more, though. Ah, fuck it, I already did. I was considering loading the autosave, but nah. What's the point? Oh, our military austerity is done anyway. That might help out our economy, our growth a little bit more. Not much, though. The Cunningham family, amongst dozens of others, piled into the Almsbury cricket patch, where rows of chairs and a hastily assembled podium laid out in the middle. The headmaster of the local school rose to the podium to inform the parents of the government's new curriculum. Gone were the days of boring books and rote education. Proper English stock needed practical education. The boys would learn a trade, the girls would learn to keep a home, and both would learn to appreciate the British countryside through outdoor recreation. The father, Alan, looked nervously at his sullen son. He was a bright lad, pale and bookish, and he was not sure how he would take this new direction. The mother, Piper, was more concerned about the future. The plan had always been for Elliot and Elise to leave Almsbury for greener pastures, Birmingham, maybe even Manchester. That was contingent on them finding a good school, or at least a better job outside the village. The son, Elliot, always hated sports. He preferred books. He was regular at the library, swiftly advancing from children's tales to the classics. Now he was compelled even, to spend long hours throwing himself into the dirt, but daughter Elise felt the pain of frustrated ambition. Her uncle was a woodworker at the Droitwich Spa. She had many questions about carpentry and was keen to answer them. But even she, the youngest member of the family, knew what it meant for a girl's education to focus on cooking and croquet. Such were the thoughts that rolled the minds of all parents and children on the fields. Even the headmaster read them with some anxiety. They felt as if they were being chained to the village, to the land of half-timbered houses and monotony. Or so they were told that it was a natural state, that this is what the English people needed. So they all went back to their homes that night. Everyone had, in their own fashion, the same thought. Am I not proper English stock? Spring was sent for lass and lad. 'Tis now the blood runs gold. and man and maid had best be glad before the world is old. When the English countryside comes to mind, one is immediately overwhelmed with imagery of green rolling hills, of a soft, gentle breeze blowing softly as the sun hovers gently over the beautiful workers tilling the land. It is one of great natural beauties of the world and one of our greatest treasures. Unfortunately, there are those men who have taken the countryside for granted. These men who prioritize the coin over all else callously poison the land, building sprawling factories housing across once beautiful land, and this is to say nothing of the damage wrought by the bombings. Thankfully, there are many in the government who are both conscientious of nature's importance and willing to defend it. Wallop himself was one of the founding members of originalist kinship for husbandry during the war. It was here he met several dedicated men and women who shared the belief that Britain's natural beauty must be protected. It would perhaps be prudent to meet with the current leader of the group, Rolf Gardner. Conversations with him are always illuminating. Ooh, that reminds me. I need up the, I queued up some infrastructure. I don't know if it was while I was recording or off camera, but this is supposed to help with, the economy. The INC splits. Funny that. Grid power. Okay. The stress and fatigue had been burning him, and it showed. Slouching into the Lord's lounger and his eyes barely staying open, he did not make a good look for the camera that was being pointed in his face. Knowing that this was his first public appearance in 2 weeks, he forced himself up and began after the introduction was finished. My lords and ladies, my lords, in this day and age we've been utterly exhausted, mostly from the multiple uprisings of treacherous cowards unwilling to look at the world around them. And unfortunately, we also have fallen in the same trap as the capitalistic snakes that tore this country to shreds in the first place. He paused, letting it sink into the room around him. We have forgotten about the beauty of nature and how reliant people across the globe are to the agricultural industry. Without such an industry, farmers will befall all thousands of famines. I need to move the mouse cursor next time. Famines will befall thousands of families, and many more would have to hunt for a new source of income. The silence of the chamber, both haunted and power of the Prime Minister, continue on after a few seconds of pause. And yet, the greedy, selfish industrialists continue to pump kilograms of toxic chemicals into our dirt, while tearing through resources faster than a machine gun. They have harmed this nation to an extent uncomparable to the uprising. My lords, we must stop this existential tool of the capitalistic nations now. I hope, my lords, all here, on the defense of this nation's beauty, and will take a stand against such activities. Thank you. A standing ovation followed the Prime Minister's proposal. Shocked by such a positive response, Wallop turned to the Duke of Bedford behind him, who in return gave Wallop a wide smile. Turning again to face the opposition, Wallop saw the same story. Everyone on the other side is clapped in a quieter manner, although the reason to him was unknown. With the supermajority was its minority, which Wallop saw and chalked it up to pure arrogance. An easy cause to rally upon, I suppose. Let us go across the barren pastures. There was a king reigned in the east, there when kings were sit to feast. They get their fill before they think, with poison meat and poison drink. IG Farben, Siemens, Volkswagen. They may come by many names, but we have the names for them as well. Names more in the vein of leech and pillager. Since the war, they've descended upon us, eagerly feasting on Britain's green hills and calm fields like a vast horde of locusts. This state of affairs cannot continue as it did under Domville, so Wallop has devised a cunning plan to use their own rapaciousness against them. Manchester, Birmingham, and their local industrial haunts shall be offered as playgrounds to them on the condition that they leave the countryside well alone. Their unrestrained green will create a drive to the countryside just as we wished, buy us time for our greater push against them, and prepare Britain's people for the day we root them out further. It's an interesting theory. Bedford slowly crept his way back to the small stage. He blamed his bad back and a poor night's sleep, although he was the type of person that would much rather lie to himself. The hundreds of German executives staring right into him as he crept closer frightened him. His disdain for these men had only grown further as he had grown closer to power, and this climbing ascent would not pause this day. He found himself at the center of attention in the room. Finding the cue to speak, he cleared his throat. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. I'm sure it's been a long commute here from Germany. I would not make all of you come all this way for any bad news. So let me get straight to the point. His eyes gazed through the hundreds of heads. He'd come to know many of these men, these faces in suits, these blank people, in his own time as PM, although many of them simply blurred together. Bedford thought nothing of it. Our government has been initiating a plan to raise funding to the Department of Agriculture and bring higher taxes to corporations in the countryside. However, he has also brought a lower minimum wage to industrial cities. Very daunting offer, gentlemen. The more Bedford spoke, the more groans could be heard. In some areas, some turned to speak to the man to his side. He feared that they thought this was just a game to settle old scores. Bedford resumed to stop the banter between executives. I know what many of you are thinking, however. Those thoughts are profoundly incorrect. The Ministry of Lord Portsmouth only seeks to focus its efforts on the countryside, and as a benefit, the cities will be all in for your industrial, capable hands. Bedford soon initiated a vote where almost every man raised their hand in favor. Idiots, all of them. The scent of money only dragged them to further the goal of ours. They are sealing their own fate, and soon they would pay. Bedford tried to hide his smile as he left the podium. It's one hell of a... Yeah, it's a theory for sure. Next, the Holy Church of England. The bells they sound on Breton, and still as the steeples hum. Come all to church, good people, O noisy bells, be dumb. I hear you. I will come. I'm gonna come. Sorry. While one might assume that Lord Portsmouth sees the Lords, or the Crown as England's most important body, this assumption would be incorrect. The most important body, by far, is the Church, who safeguards the English soul and spirit, and have shown generations the path to salvation. Therefore, the government is making a strong relationship to the Church. Maintaining a strong relationship to the Church, rather, is essential for our agrarian revival, as farmers' bond with the land is just as much a spiritual one as is a physical one. Wald will make sure to meet with the new Archbishop of Canterbury in order to make clear his plans for the special relationship between the Church and his government. And he will also make clear that he wishes to see some cleaning up in the Church, as some godless souls have unfortunately slipped through the net and hold high positions there. It is by God's grace, said K.P. Schwabcher, Archbishop of Canterbury, that this cathedral still stands, despite our wars. He bowed his head, seated in the darkness of his church. I believe it's a sign, Lord Portsmouth. He has blessed our efforts, protected his flock. Gerard Wallop nodded. They sat in the choir pews, Schwabcher behind Wallop, with his moonlight filtered through the stained glasses. Archbishop, England is in a spiritual crisis. In such dark times, it has been the Church that led them out of their inner darkness and towards a proper light. We shall do our duty for king and country, Prime Minister. As for our sermons, I have spoken to my bishops. We're in agreement. Christ's humble origins must be taught. He opened his book to express the annotations. Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary? His followers, too. He turned the pages. And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, for they were fishers. Men of the land, as all proper Englishmen should be. Land untainted by decadence. I have another sermon for that. He leafed through a few more pages. He found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changes of money sitting. Another nod from Wallop. What of the other matters? At this, Schwabcher suddenly handed over an envelope tucked in his Bible. In 24 hours, the priest enclosed would be known as the British Free Corps. Your dedication is appreciated, Archbishop. Wallop rose, placed a hand on the Archbishop's shoulders. Do not hesitate to contact us. Our government shall always lend an ear to the Church. For we are now reunited. The bond between church and state are reforged. All is well. Well, that's bad, isn't it? I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. Thank you for watching, gang. If you like this video, like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, hit the sub button for uploads weekdays as well as occasionally Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below, and that's going to be it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.